We are going to talk to the vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus, the Representative Katherine Clark of the great state of Massachusetts, I'm going to say. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning, Stephanie.
Did I sum that up pretty well? As to I don't know if even you know what's happening with stimulus talks, right?
It is very hard to give a cogent summary of utter chaos and recklessness, and that's
Right.
where we are with this president.
Right. Elizabeth Warren said, I'm sure everyone who's sick, out of work, going hungry, losing their homes, shuttering small businesses, or struggling in a zillion other ways during a pandemic is thrilled that you're hard at work to steal a Supreme Court seat for the rich and powerful extremists. I mean, Representative, you saw these polls, right? 75% to 25%, the American people want you to pass coronavirus relief before a Supreme Court justice, which they think should wait until after the election, right?
Exactly. And let's be clear, in this single focus quest to confirm a Supreme Court justice, that is all about making sure that they have a justice of their choice on the bench for oral argument on November 10th on taking away health care from millions of Americans.
Yeah.
So just when you think this cannot get worse, it gets worse.
Yeah.
This isn't just an ideological pick. This is specifically to make sure that we take away the ACA, that we strip protections for pre-existing conditions, that we turn women into pre-existing conditions again by their very being, and all during a pandemic. And meanwhile, he has just abandoned the American people. My grandmother used to say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Yeah. And he has showed us over and over again that he does not care about the American people and what they are going through.
By the way, I don't mean to break it to you, but I think your grandmother stole that from Maya Angelou. But okay, we're just going to...
She definitely did.
No offense to your grandmother, Representative, but I mean,
she was a well-read woman.
Yes.
Clearly. So, Representative, do you know where we're at? I mean, obviously, Speaker Pelosi, like many other people herself, speculated that she doesn't know if it's the steroids. I mean, this once again, it's hard to tell from his normal rash decision making, but his blowing up the stimulus talks on Twitter and then appearing to retweet his own chairman of the Fed, who said this is going to be a disaster for the economy if we don't pass something, and then sort of crawling back on Twitter this morning. Are there any talks ongoing? What's happening?
I think that we all hope this is a matter of some medication that is out of whack for the president, because we can fix that and he can recover from that.
Right.
But I'm afraid what is at stake here is that he simply is deserting the American people during the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, and instead only offering us continued chaos. I mean, we have 26 million Americans who are out of work, and this is a she session. The impact on women cannot be underestimated. In September alone, 865,000 women left the workforce, and we compare that to a little over 200,000 men who left the workforce. We worry about every job lost, but with the impact on childcare and school reopening, we know that so many women are struggling in this time, and this president doesn't see them. He doesn't see the hungry children. He doesn't see businesses that here in the Northeast are so terrified of the upcoming cold weather.
Yeah.
Our restaurants have done everything they can to be creative, to try and stay in business, keep their employees employed with a paycheck. But we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And this president has never set a comprehensive plan of testing and treatment and tracing to keep the American people safe and secure.
And
that is, yes, go ahead.
And you said it best on Twitter, Representative. You said no regard for the 210,000 who've died, no acknowledgement that he's getting VIP treatment while obstructing comprehensive testing, tracing, and care from the American people, and just dangerous political bluster. Apparently, there's no cure for his recklessness. And, that also reflected in the polling that, Americans largely think he got coronavirus from his own recklessness and disregard for CDC guidelines, obviously. Just, I mean, this has been so mismanaged. You mentioned restaurants. I've been saying this from the beginning, Representative. If we had done what we should have done, shut down, really done a shutdown, masks and distancing from the beginning, and kept restaurants and bars and all of that afloat. We had money to do that way back when. Here's money to keep you afloat. We'd be back open by now, wouldn't we?
Exactly. Exactly. What we need to reopen our economy is healthy people. And what this president and the Republicans who are complicit with him, they have never set out a plan for us to safely reopen. It starts by addressing this virus and supporting our frontline workers, our essential workers, following the science. This president has turned his back on that. And as you mentioned, it is so incomprehensible that he just benefited from the very best medical care that we can provide. And I think that is the right thing to do for any president of the United States who is sick. But I also hoped that maybe this would be the moment that might, create some compassion within the president. But instead, the minute he was feeling better, he is absolutely back to who he cares about, which is a party of one.
Do you know how many I mean, you've probably seen them, speaking out, families of people, that have lost people going, how dare you talk about, we're going to beat this, as if we all have access to the same care the president of the United States does. And, don't let this dominate your life, as if these 210,000 people that have died, it was their fault somehow. And it's just, it is hard to believe he makes it worse with every single thing he says, but he really does, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's no longer surprising. It is still shocking how little he regards the American people, how he can talk about his own recovery in terms of just personal strength and not the access to health care, while he is ignoring the plight of communities of color that have suffered the inequities that we knew were already there. But it has made this pandemic so much worse, in higher death rates, higher rates of hospitalization. And now we have millions of people with pre-existing conditions and a president who still is hell-bent to take away the insurance coverage for them.
Yeah. Well, and also when you mentioned the Supreme Court representative, the most terrifying thing is that he's still this morning talking about needing that because he's going to go to the Supreme Court to try to get appointed president. And that's where we really feel like there's alternate realities, right? And you're in my reality. Joe Biden's up 16 points in the latest poll, and Trump is still talking about he's taking this to the Supreme Court as if it's already a nail biter, right?
Yeah. And, this president knows that he is losing. I think that is part of this erratic and chaotic behavior that we are watching from him. And so, we have to be the vanguards. We have to be the ones who are going to protect our vote and our democratic process. We should let the people speak before we go ahead with this confirmation. But even more than that, this president needs to come back to the negotiating table. We were making progress. Yeah. We weren't there yet, but we were making progress. And I can tell you that I left Washington right after voting for a comprehensive package that meets the Republicans halfway.
Yeah.
Nobody can say that the Democrats were not working, negotiating, actively trying to find a solution.
Yeah.
And then we put a bill up that said, okay, let's just address the airlines. And the Republicans blocked it. And I got on my flight home, and a young flight attendant got on the loudspeaker as we were landing in Boston and announced it was her last flight because of furloughs. And she was crying as she was thanking us for our business and that she hoped that we remained safe and well. And all of this is avoidable.
Yeah.
We could have avoided the loss of tens of thousands
Yeah.
of American
As,
lives.
as Michelle Obama said yesterday, this did not need to happen. This did
Yeah.
not need
Did
to be
not
this way. And
need to be this way, and it doesn't continue to have to become a worse problem. And yet this president just can't see past the end of his own nose.
well,
And
and
get
it goes to your
to a
tweet,
solution.
Representative. What he's doing in the White House is the same as he's doing to the country. As you said, him just ripping his mask off on the balcony. You said it's not just the 400 people that work in the White House; it's their families. They go home to him. It's who they may have been in contact with, their children. I mean, it's the
That's
fact that he
right.
is personally a vector and a super spreader, right? On top of what he's doing to the entire country, it's too much to take in some days, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, we are now up to 30 people in his close orbit of aides and, people who work in the White House who have tested positive. And, as in the tweet that you quoted, this spreads out. There are hundreds of people who work in the White House who show up to do their duty and support the office of the president. And they do it bravely and they do it well. And the reward from them, from this president, is exposure to a deadly pandemic, putting their families at risk.
Well, and you summed it up.
Matter to him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and you summed it up best on Twitter, Representative. You said American families are suffering and white supremacists are celebrating. Vote him out. Have you made a plan to vote? I got my ballot out here in California 2 days ago. I'm voting today. Vote early, right? Whatever you're going to do, however you want to do it, vote early, correct?
Vote early. Make a plan. Get it into the mail or a ballot box as soon as you can. Make sure if you're voting in person that you have the day off. The good news is that around this time in 2016, 70,000 odd Americans had voted by this time.
Yep.
3.2 million Americans have already cast their vote because they understand what is at stake.
Yeah.
It is their very democracy, it is their lives and their livelihoods.
Yep. They see what's coming. Absolutely. I was just going to cite those numbers. That's fantastic. Representative, the best to you and your thieving grandmother. Your quote thieving grandmother. We every time I see you on TV, I'm like, she's so classy.
Yeah.
More of her, please. Representative Clark, thanks as always for taking time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you.
All right.
Stay well.
Okay,
You
you
too.
too. See you soon.